Today's video was selected for you by my gorgeous patrons, so thank you very much to them for making this selection. And if you would like to be involved in future video polls and also have access to the Discord, the one card riff video every month and other privileges as well, check out the tiers. I will leave all the information down below. Hey there, darling sunflowers. Welcome to this episode of Tea and Tarot, where I tend to sip tea and talk about tarot because that is just what I do. This is a very, very long-standing series here on my channel, and I like to return to it every now and again and give you some fresh cards and some fresh advice on a particular topic. This video has been selected by my patrons, as I mentioned at the beginning, so thank you so much to them for giving input on what the next episode of Tea and Tarot should be. The tea for today is a yogi blend, and it is called Heartwarming, and it's a blend of basil, chili and orange peel, and I am in heaven. Absolutely delicious. So if there is an outside chance, my darlings, that any of you do make tea in order to come and watch an episode of Tea and Tarot, let us know what the fuck is in your cup. Get at me down below and let me know. Honestly, I don't think any two things in my world go together better than tea and tarot, to be honest with you. This is always a delight. Today, as you can see from the title, we are going to be looking at powerful tips for potent spellcraft. I have actually made an entire video in the past about how to do very high potency spells. I will leave that down below if you want to get even more into it. I think with the 3 cards that we normally select for a Tea and Tarot episode, obviously I'm not going to be able to cover anywhere near what I feel would be a complete spellcraft toolkit. We're just going to look into a few things for confidence, for competency, so that you can get things done magically and see what comes through from the cards on that score. I'm going to use the deck Holly Simple Tarot. I've had this one for years now and I really love it. Unfortunately, the silver bits on the front do not extend into the deck art, which is massively unfortunate, but look at this art. It is really great. It looks like wall paintings that were made by an enthusiastic, incredibly spiritually plugged in child. Look at this one, look. There's lots of hand imagery in this deck. This is the full, very beautiful imagery. There will be cutaways to all 3 of the cards that I discuss in the episode, my darlings, so be aware of that if you actually want to see the majesty of these cards up close and you want to see the imagery that I'm looking at as I give you the interpretations. Then there will be cutaways as we go through. Look at the devil. What an adorable devil. It's almost a bit disarming, that devil, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and have a little shuffle of the deck now, my darlings. And while I'm doing so, I will let you know just a little bit about what to expect from this episode. Okay, so these cards that I bring up in this episode are not a reading for anyone in particular. It's general advice, and we're all going to look into the advice together. You can use the comment section down below as well to share what you think of the interpretations of the cards, what you want to bring to the table, things that I didn't say. There is a world inside every single card. I do not expect to hit the complete spectrum of light and shadow. I don't expect to always say things about each card that you agree with or that you couldn't add to. So please, as card slingers, come into the conversation and talk about what else you think might be happening that I didn't mention. If you do want a one-to-one reading with me, I do offer them. It is a massive bulk of how I make my money on this planet. So I will leave a link to my online store down below, as always, so that you can go ahead and get yourself some one-on-one guidance. So just to clarify, just that big caveat there again, this is not one-on-one guidance. I don't know your specific situation. I'm going to give a few little ideas from each of the 3 cards, and we're not going to use any positions today. So I think what we're going to do is just lay the 3 cards out. And have I made an 11th hour change on that though? Hang on, let me just tune in with myself. Maybe we will do spread positions. Let's have a little jump cut while I make my decision. You know what I'll do, darlings? I think I will go ahead and just draw 3 cards. I just sat and wrote a few notes out about what I'm hoping that we will see. maybe some sort of rough themes that I could tap into. And I wrote down, how can you do more powerful spells? You know, how can you really bring the potency to your spellcraft in witchcraft? I've written down self-belief and confidence in spellcraft. Even designing a spell would denote on some level that you have some confidence and some self-belief that you can bring to the proceedings if you go ahead. So those particular mindsets, that particular point of view is important on the path of the witch. And I've also put here that it would be interesting to look into what we might need to avoid, or in other words, what might decrease the potency or potential of a spell. But I'm not going to go ahead and make them into spread positions. We're just going to have 3 open positions. The reason I had a question with myself about it is because I'm very pro spread positions. And I might go into that in another video because I definitely want to make a bit more tarot content. Now that I have just come back at the end of July from the Tabby conference, the Tarot Association of the British Isles invited me to do a presentation last month at their annual conference in Manchester. I spoke for an hour there about intimacy with tarot, really getting closer to the cards and how that is achieved. It was an incredible experience. I will put some screenshots in right now of me teaching away, darlings. So I had a really wonderful time, and coming back from Manchester after the event, I thought to myself, I would love to make some more tarot content. It's been a while, so I'll definitely think about making a video about why I favour using spread positions. But for now, let's go ahead and draw the first of the 3 cards that we're going to look into for how can we do powerful spells, how can we make sure that our spells are working, how can we bring our A game to spell casting. Let's find out what the cards have to say. Interesting, very interesting. 9 of Pentacles is the card that's come through, and I will show you the cutaway right now. So you can see, my darlings, that this is a particularly intense looking 9 of Pentacles with the severed zombie-like hand with the pentacles sort of encased in the palm there, and those beautiful long white nails. It's a very intense image. And there's something to it that is very foreboding and attention grabbing, which is one thing that I particularly love about this deck. The colour of the deck, the style of it is very attention grabbing. The first thing that this card taps me into as a witch is the sheer possibility that is on offer when we look at spellcraft as an avenue for gain. I have definitely had these points in my witchcraft where I plain forgot that I could actually use spells as a way to get what I want. I know it sounds ridiculous because I've been a witch for a really long time now, and I mentor other witches who actually, funnily enough, often have the same problem. But spellcraft is not usually my first port of call, which is fine. You know, we can get a lot of stuff done in the material realm to make bring our desires into reality, depending on what those desires are. But sometimes it's not even on my radar, and I have to remind myself that, like, I can throw spellcraft at this. And I have seen the boons and the advantages of doing so. And I've heard from other witches that there have been boons and advantages to doing so. So I think the first thing is to really witness the potency that spellcraft can bring into your life, witness and have confidence in spellcraft as a way of going forward and receiving what you want. The coins in the hand in 9 of Pentacles represent the receiving of gain. They represent comfort, leisure, access to things. They represent resources. 9 of Pentacles is very often associated with being really comfortable, you know, having what you need and having the confidence to know that you're worthy of what it is that you need. 9 of Pentacles often represents this sense of material independence and this sense of having built what it is that you wanted to get out of life. We are being welcomed here first and foremost to see spellcraft as a part of that puzzle. So if it's been a while since you really tapped into the power of spellcraft to achieve your aims in this lifetime, I think 9 of Pentacles really draws us to that first of all. The other thing I want to say though about 9 of Pentacles, and it's a little bit more on the shadow side when it comes to spellcraft, is that a lot of witches don't feel that they have what is required in order to be able to do spells. It's a major insecurity for a lot of witches, you know, this feeling that you need to have your material items all set up, you need to have access to certain props, maybe you feel like you just need more space, maybe you feel like you need a bigger altar, or you need an altar whatsoever if you don't have one now. Maybe there is some way in which you feel you're coming up short and you're not in your 9 of Pentacles energy to be able to do a spell at all because you require these certain things that you're lacking, right? One of the shadows of 9 of Pentacles is lack, that feeling that we are not in a position where we have our material needs met in order to be able to live life to the fullest. So I do think this taps into a really interesting insecurity for witches. And I think for me, a big thing that comes up in my own practice is that I've done a lot of really impressive stuff using my active imagination. I have built a lot of really beautiful stuff in the astral world. I have a complete astral mansion at this point. I have an astral altar, which I write about in my book, Rebel Witch. I don't feel that I only need to do spellcraft and make things happen in a very material, very earthly, very bricks and mortar kind of sense. There are really powerful workings that can be meted out without any material tools whatsoever. So I want to also welcome us to look at this card as a symbol of deep visualization, as a symbol of actually having a garden and a home and a swimming pool and whatever else you might want in the astral realm. You know, you can be the owner of a really big astral forest, you know. You can have animals that you work with on the astral realm. You can have the keys to your own witchy front door in the astral, and there are ways of doing that and tapping into it. So don't ever feel that you are materially depleted in some way because you can't afford to obtain a cauldron for a working, or because you feel like you need a witchy room of your own in order to be able to practice. You have a witchy room of your own, okay? It's in here. Everything that you ever needed as a witch is actually within you. It's in your psyche, it's in your imagination, it's within your inner realms. So I wanted to put that out there as well. When I look at Nine of Pentacles, I do think about whatever I want to achieve in the earthly realm. I think about gaining, I think about obtaining, but I also think about how I visualize myself and what I visualize myself having access to. And I think when it comes to spellcraft, the active imagination, the world of the astral, what we build there, what we maintain there, and what we interact with and draw close to there can be 9/10 of the law. Even when I am doing a spell that involves many material items, you know, lots of props, lots of tools, lots of things going on right in front of me in my earthly situation, I'm applying my imagination and my will and my vision to the process constantly. Otherwise, I don't feel like it's going anywhere. Nothing's happening. So I want to talk about that internal wealth and that inner garden, I suppose, that is the starting point for a lot of spellcraft. I would be very interested to know down below which of you have actually done spells in a non-material way, in a way that didn't require earthly tools or props whatsoever, in a sense where you went inwardly and you actually went to a place of power that exists non-materially. I don't know why I can't speak today, darlings, but that's what's going on here. Let me try more basil, chili, and orange peel. Maybe that will help matters. I want to say one more thing about Nine of Pentacles before I move away from this particular card. I think Nine of Pentacles is about being aware of our highest potential and the realm of possibility. But we also have to witness that we are worthy of those things. We are worthy of reaching our potential. We are worthy of obtaining more access to what it is that we need for our comfort and for our sense of safety. We are worthy of being able to have dreams that we nurture and foster and build and work on, you know. And I think that's a big part of coming to spellcraft as a tool, is knowing that we are worthy of that tool. It's knowing that we can access that and we're allowed to access that. And it's okay for us to obtain what we want through spells, you know. It's okay for us to work on our own behalf in that way. We have to know that we believe that. Otherwise, there's going to be a big hole in our potential with the craft, with that particular aspect of the craft, with spellcasting, right? So Nine of Pentacles is not only about obtaining something that you desired that actually improves your quality of life in some way, but it's also about knowing that you are allowed to be that Nine of Pentacles figure, that it's okay. You know, I think Nine of Pentacles, when it's in shadow, can be about greed and it can be about selfishness. It can certainly be about acquiring and keeping hold of too much. You know, it can definitely be about the billionaire class. Okay. And so there are those things to work on and to observe and analyze within ourselves. But I think Nine of Pentacles is very often just about nurturing a dream. It's just about having something that you built that you're proud of, that serves you, that feels beautiful for you. And there's nothing wrong with using spellcraft for that. So I think it's really a mindset thing as well. If you look into how worthy you feel of using spellcraft to obtain something, if you look into how worthy you feel of having a beautiful life, That's also a part of the shadow work and the healing that we need to come to as witches as well, if we're going to have a decent relationship with the concept of spellcasting. Ultimately, I think we're really being asked to believe in the power of spellcraft, to know that it works, to believe that we can have access to it, and of course to know that spellcasting takes place in different ways, that we can always be that figure in Nine of Pentacles with the fistful of cash and the bird of paradise and the beautiful trees in the background. We can be that at any point. We can take ourselves to that point if we feel like it might fill us with potency for the spell that we need to do. You know, I have very much dressed myself in the most opulent of robes, darling, to do a spell, and at no point did I own those ridiculously gold filigreed robes, okay? I put them on in my mind's eye. I adopted that cloak of power in order to be able to do what I was doing, and at no point did I need to like go on Etsy and order some beautiful custom thing that costs hundreds and hundreds of pounds. No, I can put on that cloak anytime I want. I have access to that as a witch, and I think that's partly what we're being asked to witness here. Oh, hang on, okay, one more thing I want to say, one more thing about Nine of Pentacles, then I promise I'll move on, okay? What do you really, really want? Because I think Nine of Pentacles is often this image of luxury and comfort and beauty and having something that really feels good. And there is something about my relationship with spellcraft that is really kind of elevated in the last few years. And it's that I've been able to get much more clear about what I actually want. And I try to cast for things that I want in a more long-term way. In other words, I don't cast from a very spontaneous, egoic desire to obtain something in that moment, when I could cast for something that would have a longer term effect, you know, something that I feel changes me, sort of alchemizes me internally, as well as just giving me access to whatever I might need in that moment. And an example that I will use, because I think it fits really well with Nine of Pentacles, is my relationship with money. A few times when I was in my 20s, I had cash flow issues. I had problems with money big time. I was not working all of the time. I had a bad back injury. And for 5 years, I was on and off in debt, in arrears with my rent, stuff like that, because when you're on benefits, it's really difficult to cover all of your costs. They actually design it that way, and I don't know why, but I could never get all of my rent paid, only a portion of it. And I really don't understand where the other part of it was supposed to come from, but that's a whole other video. But basically, I was in debt and I was struggling, and money was not a really great subject for me. It was often in shadow, and it's something that I still grapple with in my shadow work today. And I used to have to cast a few different times for obtaining quick cash, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That is a very legitimate reason to cast a spell. When we can't make the ends meet, when we need to keep the wolf from the door, when a bill is coming out but there isn't enough coming in, even if we might have frivolously overspent. I mean, fuck it. Look, it doesn't matter. You don't need to moralize why you need to do a spell in the sense that, like, don't shame yourself if you need to do a spell to correct your own mistake. That's what I mean. Obviously, I think we should bring some morals to spellcraft. That's definitely a part of what I think. But in terms of shaming yourself out of using a tool that could really help you, fuck that. You know, do that thing. Do it. But what I will say is that I realized as I came into my 30s that the spellcraft that I wanted to do around money and the issues I was having with it, the things I was feeling about it, were much more to do with a deep alchemizing mindset shift. And I'm still working on it. It's not an exact science, okay? I've got a lot of baggage around money for a lot of reasons I won't go into here. But I realized that what would be better for me is if I sort of balled up my energy and saved my focus for spells that are about alchemizing deeply and on a foundational level my attitude towards money, rather than just to wait and only break glass in case of emergency to do a spell for when I was flat broke. You know, like I said, nothing wrong with that kind of spellcraft. We need that kind of spellcraft. But I also wanted to go into this more longer term foundational shift. And I started putting my spellcraft towards that. And I started directing my ritual towards that. And I started looking at that in my readings and asking for advice from the gods, right? So I wanted to say that as well. Nine of Pentacles gives us the opportunity to create a long-term vision. It really allows us to embrace a longer-term game plan for ourselves. And I think with spellcraft, we can do piecemeal spells to correct little things that are going wrong in that moment. But we can also step back and see a pattern of what it is that we've needed to do spellcraft around. And we can look at that pattern and we can say, maybe there's a different kind of working I can be doing here that's going to stop me from having to do those piecemeal spells altogether. Let me think on that. you know? And the example that I've given is just from my own reality, but I think it's possible that in your life too, you might notice that there is a specific subject around which spell casting is often considered an option for you. And when you look at that area of your life, you can say to yourself, okay, I do have to like go into emergency spellcasting here. I do have to put quite a bit of my energy into fixing things as they come up in this area of my reality. What would happen if I actually looked at the foundational overhaul right from the roots of this part of my life? Is there a different kind of spell that I can be casting for that? Wow, there was a lot on Nine of Pentacles, more than I was expecting. Okay, let's go and have a look at the next of the 3 cards then for this Tea and Tarot episode. The card that has come through to advise us is again a card from the Suit of Pentacles, this time 6 of Pentacles. I love this. This is a very, very prominent card to come up in this position. Let me show you the cutaway, my darlings, as I go into my thoughts and feelings on 6 of Pentacles, because I have just realised that I am going to be late for an important personal appointment if I don't get this moving a little faster. So 6 of Pentacles is an intriguing one, because often what we're looking at with the 6 is we're looking at this sense of how we actually apportion our attention and our resources. We're looking at the decisions that can be made that will really sort of help us or hinder us in terms of moving forward appropriately. 6 of Pentacles can be about balance and caring and sharing and making sure that we are apportioning our resources where they need to go to make things work. It can also be about oversharing, overgiving, loss of resources. It can be about irresponsibility in terms of where you're putting your time, your money, your energy, your focus, right? So it's really allowing us to understand that we have some options when it comes to where we're putting our attention. First thing I want to say in terms of spell casting is that you have options in terms of what your spell is focused on. And I think 6 of Pentacles might be suggesting that we are just careful, that we put enough energy and enough will and enough intention towards a very specific outcome, rather than try to spread the energy and the power of our spellcraft too thinly over a number of different things. It can be tempting, especially if you're short on time, to perform a spell that will tie everything up in a neat little bow. You might even be tempted to address different subjects under the umbrella of the one spell. So you might be tempted to be like, you know, I bring in more friends, I bring in more money, you know, like I bring in a new job opportunity, all of these different things. And it can become a mishmash of things that are, you know, really not relating to each other in terms of theme. It can be tempting also to cast for a number of different specific outcomes. You know, we can be very scared that if we miss the mark with one thing with the spell, we didn't request or call in anything else. You know, we didn't actually make provision for anything else in terms of where we're placing our will. But for me, I feel like a spell works best when we really zoom in and get laser focused and get clear on the thing that we desire. One thing that is good for me in my spellcraft is I think of an energy that I want to bring in, an experience, a situation that I want to really call into my life. And then I cast for that specific thing, but I also make the caveat that I want this or whatever else is in my highest good. And the reason that I make that caveat is because I'm aware that the ego can get really stuck on one specific outcome. The ego can be convinced that it knows what I need and what I want and what is best for me. I can get very obsessive and excited about one specific vision that I have of what could happen and what I want. And so I want to make sure that I'm also calling in any other perfect possibilities that I have not thought through, that I have not actually had come to mind. And I think 6 of Pentacles can allow us to think about how we can zoom in, call in the energy that we want, call in the specific outcome that we want, but also make a caveat that says, I'll also have anything else that I haven't thought of that's good. But what we don't want to do is clutter up the energy and the focus of the spell by really casting the net too widely and asking for, or I shouldn't say asking, because I don't really feel like the energy of spellcraft is an energy of asking at all. It's an energy of calling in. So casting the net too widely would be calling in all these different specific possibilities or working with disparate themes in your spell. And like I said, I know it can be tempting. I'm short on time too. I'm short on energy sometimes as well, okay? So I know that that can be tempting, but I think 6 of Pentacles is about making a really prudent decision about what the spell is for, rather than trying to make sure we hit all bases. Another thing that is very prominent when it comes to 6 of Pentacles is not only this theme of receiving, giving, dividing, sharing things out, deciding where you're going to put your resources and what you're going to focus on. That's a very big theme with Six of Pentacles. But another theme that's really interesting is looking at your dealings with others and looking at their dealings with you, looking at your dealings with yourself and figuring out, am I losing out as a result of this? Am I getting what I need from the equation? Is it fair on me? Six of Pentacles is often about fairness, balance. It's about equity. It's about making sure that you win and that you don't win to the detriment of others and that you don't have regular dealings with people who would try to win to the detriment of you. Does that make sense? So it's really about the company that we keep, and it's about fair exchange of energy and resources. So it's really about finding something that works for everyone involved. So I suppose what I'm really thinking of here, my darlings, what I'm asking you to observe within yourself is, when you're doing a spell, who is the subject of that spell? Is it someone else that you know is trying to deal unfairly with you, is bringing an energy in that is really not justified? Are you trying to bind that person? Are you trying to separate yourself from that person? Are you trying to switch up the dynamic between both of you without actually severing the cord? Or is this really about you and the way that you deal with things, the approach that you have, the boundaries that you have in any kind of relationship, be it professional, personal, or otherwise? Because we really have to be discerning about that as well. Sometimes in spellcraft, there are lots of witches who will say to themselves, this is not about me. My behavior is on point. I'm doing what I need to be doing. This is about other people who are not pulling their weight, or they're being unscrupulous, or they're in some way not giving me back the return on what I'm investing. And so I'm going to do something about that. I'm going to direct my spellcraft accordingly to change the dynamics, or to give this person a wake-up call, or to stop them from doing something which is destructive, which is unfair on others. And sometimes witches will look at the very same situation and say to themselves, I need to figure out what my boundaries are. I need to do some protection so I don't bring this kind of stuff in. You know, maybe I need to do a cord cutting in some way, or I need to look at the way I'm doing business or conducting my friendships or relationship so that I make sure that I'm not in this overgiving energy. It's about healing for me. It's about empowerment or protection magic for me. So I think this card is really calling us to realize that we have those options. We can really look at who is actually the subject of the spell. And I'd be really interested in hearing from you down below. There is no judgment here on this channel about what you choose to do in your spellcraft. If you have done bindings, or if you have done kind of like dynamic switch work on other people to change their behavior, to help them to see the light in some way, or to stop them from engaging in harmful or unfair actions, and you want to let us know about that and how it went, please hit up the comments down below. If you have ever been in a situation where you were going to do a spell to change somebody else's unscrupulous or unfair behavior, but you actually had kind of like an 11th hour shift where you thought, I need to actually look at me and why I'm engaging with this, or why I'm bringing these people in, why I find myself again in this situation, and how I can change that. Again, let us know in the comments down below. I'm very intrigued about your journeys in terms of using spellcraft to make things fair, to make relationships harmonious, to make sure that we are all giving and receiving adequately. Because there are often other people involved in those kinds of situations, and we make the decision as witches whether or not we're going to be directing any of that high potent spellcraft energy towards other people and what they're doing or not doing. Or do we focus it all inwards? Do we focus it all on self? Even if we might feel like there is nothing inwardly to focus on, we are being treated unfairly. We are not being in receipt of what it is we deserve. And so we need to look at how others are behaving. I think every situation is so nuanced, so personal, so fucking highly individual, that this card then becomes very interesting in that regard. Don't forget as well, my darlings, that if you do find yourself in a situation where there is like some stinginess, or there is some selfishness, there is some undergiving in some regard with a person in your life, and you want to do a spell which is directed towards their behavior, you can always do it with love as the foundational energy behind it. I don't think that everything that we do that is supposed to affect the behavior of another person needs to be from a place of malice, needs to be in order to be punitive and to punish. I think it can also come from a place of wanting lovingly for a person to see their own behavior and shift their own behavior. And some spellcraft is about directing energy towards them so that they have those avenues open, so that they can experience a deep internal shift. And I know from my own life, I've watched people, myself included, experience a deep internal shift. So I know it's something that we can put spellcraft towards. It's not impossible to help somebody along a little bit on the path of really understanding their behavior or the results of that behavior. So if you do end up doing spellcraft in that regard because you want to change a situation that is fundamentally unfair or not moving well with you, then you can always do it with love as that foundational energy, and you can use that in your wording. You can look at that in terms of what you want the outcome to be, and you can notice when you are wanting to push for an outcome that is quite punitive, that is quite harsh, that is severe. And you can pull that back, you can rein that back in and say, no, wait a minute, I'm not trying to harm this person, I'm trying to get this person to see the harmful results of their actions. And so I want to come in from a place of wanting to give that person maybe some tools or some building blocks so they can change their behavior so that this relationship doesn't have to sever. And so this person doesn't have to come to a sense of pain about what they've done. And this is all based on your ethics, okay? Some people will be watching this thinking, I would never cast a spell on anyone for anything, Kellyanne. It's not what I do. But I'm speaking to those in the room who do use spellcraft in that way, and just gently encouraging that, like, if you want a fairer Six of Pentacles situation where people are pulling their weight equally and where you don't feel like you're being put upon and other people are really the subject of that, then yeah, you can put your energy and intention towards a loving outcome that serves them rather than an outcome that is going to be intentionally harsh upon them. I mean, look, you can also go for an outcome that's intentionally harsh upon them. I'm not going to tell you what to do. The final card for our Tea and Tarot episode today on a toolkit for epic spellcraft is the High Priestess. Oh my golly, how lovely to see her. We've had a lot of earth action today, darlings, lots coming up from the Suit of Pentacles, but to round it off with the High Priestess is quite a thing, isn't it? So let's get into it. The High Priestess is really one of the most prominent images in tarot that is representative of the witch. So it's particularly significant that this card should come to wrap things up. There are two things that I want to say about the High Priestess. The first is this: you have a lot of access to wisdom around what your spellcraft should be directed towards, what would be the best form of spellcraft to do. Trust your intuition on that. Ask for guidance if you need it, but definitely do not be convinced that you're bereft of it. I see a lot of stuff online, a lot of conversations online, on the Discord, in the comments underneath YouTube videos, in Facebook groups, on Instagram, where people are asking other witches, what do I do? What kind of spellcraft do I use? What should I say? How many times should I turn around and touch my nose? The High Priestess is this image of confidence in one's ability to connect with the vision for the spell, to understand what is needed, and to really tap into that wisdom as a witch. And I think we can always be practicing how best to do that, how best to achieve that. I am not saying that we shouldn't ask other witches for guidance. I am saying that some people are asking to be fed from the breast guidance from other witches on what to do, how to make sure they don't fuck it up, how to make sure they're doing a spell for the right thing in the right way with the right tools and the right words. The High Priestess is operating more from that inner knowing, from that sense that they are already linked up with what it is that needs to happen next. And I think if we are completely cut off, if we are totally disconnected from that inner knowing and from that sense that we've got knowledge that can't be meted out in other conversations with witches, but that comes from somewhere beyond, somewhere deeper, somewhere higher, whatever wording you want to use. If we're not operating from that wisdom, we are in deficit as witches. If you have a feeling that you need to go very ceremonial or very celestial, or you need to do something you've never done before, you need to do something that comes straight out of a book that you read, you need to do something that you've seen in a fucking film, really connect with that sense that that is okay to do, and that is the intuition that has come to you. The High Priestess is also connected to the realms of spirit and the realm of deity, you know, so really the High Priestess is asking for guidance from beyond the human and from beyond cognition. If you need to do that in order to figure out how your spell should be and what exactly you should be casting for, if you want that extra reassurance, feel capable of asking for signs. Not just going to a witch and asking, what would you do and what would you not do and what should I do? But actually saying, you know what, I'm going to ask the gods on this. I'm going to ask my ancestors on this. I'm going to ask the spirit of Freddie fucking Mercury. Freddie, what should I bring to the equation here? Let me know. The other thing that I want to say about the High Priestess, and this is something I've really witnessed in my spellcraft journey, is that after I've cast a spell, lots of little Easter eggs come in for me. When I cast a spell, what did I cast a spell for? I cast it to bring in whatever the fuck I wanted that I directed my energy and intention towards, right? So I'm waiting on the thing that is coming in. I know that it's going to happen because that's the kind of arrogance you need. And if you're wondering what I mean there, I will leave a video down below about 10 powerful witchcraft mindsets. And one of them is essentially arrogance. So I've got that witchy arrogance. I know it's coming. I know it's going to come right on time, okay? But in the meantime, notice all the little interesting shifts that happen in the energetic threads around you. Sometimes a spell delivers itself in these really interesting little parts. For me, there have been numerous times after I've cast a spell that I've realised that I'm being given access to wisdom that was not available to me before I cast the spell. And it's wisdom that directs me appropriately, that helps me to change the way I'm doing something or the way I'm looking at something. There are Easter eggs, there are clues that come in. And that's part of what I called in the spell as well. I didn't just call in whatever it is I was wanting. I called in the possibility of seeing something differently, realizing that I have access to different weaponry than I thought at first. Let's say, my darlings, that you have cast a spell to find the perfect home. Okay, you're looking for somewhere new to live, to rent, to buy, whatever. You're looking for a good new location. You're trying to figure out your domestic life in the next step. You have to leave where you are now, and you've cast a spell to find the perfect thing. Let's say that a couple of nights later, while you're waiting for this perfect thing, you go to a dinner and you meet like a real estate agent, and the real estate agent is just talking about stuff in the market. Or you meet someone at the park who's talking about, like, there's a really nice park in this other area of town where there are these other things and there are these yoga classes. There's some kind of conversation that happens or that you overhear that would lead you to an understanding. Is it actually the home all wrapped up in a nice, neat little bow that's been presented to you online or in the paper and you're like, this is it, it's got all of the different things I wanted? No, it's not that, but it could well be a clue that you have called in because you've done this spell that has put you in alignment with the energy of achievement in that way. So there are all these little clues and Easter eggs and interesting things that come through, especially just after you've cast a spell. You've rearranged the threads of fate, baby, in some way. So be very aware, be open in the way the High Priestess would be open. The High Priestess is actively looking for signs that could be straight sentences from the universe to her. And we can do the exact same thing. Be open, you know, feel like you've taken a layer of cosmic skin off and you are more sensitive to what is coming through. Because sometimes there are these really beautiful clues wrapped up in experiences just in the time after you've done a spell that can lead you to what it is that you wanted. It is literally like a trail of breadcrumbs. And you created that trail of breadcrumbs, so don't miss it. You put it there, so don't miss it. My darlings, I've had a wonderful, wonderful time doing this Tea and Tarot episode for you. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Let me know down below any and all thoughts that you have on this particular episode. It's been an interesting one, I will say. I'm going to go now and finish my heartwarming yogi tea. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you want a one-on-one reading with me, you are more than welcome to book into my schedule. It is now open. At the time of uploading this, it is open for August and September. Those all-important October dates are coming. If you want to hold off and book a Samhain reading, I am going to be releasing them right at the end of August towards beginning of September. And we're going to fill my schedule up, darling. It's fully booked every year for the last 4 years now, I think. So thank you so much as well for believing particularly in my Samhain readings. But yeah, come along, see what's available. I've got some new options coming out soon, which I'm really excited about. I'm always trying to figure out new, joyful, exciting, psychedelic, kaleidoscopic, prismatic ways to work with the cards, darling. So it is all to play for as I head towards the end of the year. Okay, much love, my darlings. Blessed be and bye for now.